I just sold one of my biggest crypto holdings and I put the money into one specific coin, which I believe is a sleeping giant of the space, but hasn't yet got the recognition that it deserves. So I'm going to go through my logic behind that trade, why I made this big portfolio move. So hopefully you can manage your portfolios to the best of your ability heading into the remainder of Q4. I also have a big market update to bring you today because lots has happened over the past 48 hours. It's honestly been one of the craziest 48 hours in crypto. Maybe not if you've been, just hanging out on YouTube and chilling in spot bags, but if you've been in the meme coin arena playing that game, it's been nuts. We saw many meme coins reach new local highs and then have massive pullbacks today. So we're going to discuss maybe whether you should be buying into those pullbacks, whether coins like POPCAT, MOG, etc. are potentially good buys. And as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the video, I'll be going through the altcoin, which I think is a sleeping giant and could perform very, very well in Q4 and beyond. So as usual, it's going to be an alpha-packed video. If you do enjoy content like this, make sure to click that subscribe button down below and hit that post notification bell because I'm here to give you the early alpha in the crypto market. And I'm going to try, by the way, to one take this video. You'll notice I usually make little clips throughout the video. I'm going to leave all the mistakes in and I'm going to one take it because I'm trying to reduce editing time so I can focus on creating content. So let's see how this goes. Firstly, let's begin with a crypto market update. Looking at Bitcoin, we can see we are making our way back towards the crucial level, which is the $64,500 zone. What you need to know about Bitcoin, it's very simple. It's the fact that we are now making higher lows. This actually looks like another higher low and higher highs in what seems to be a trend reversal if you look at the daily and the weekly charts. And Bitcoin really needs to make a higher high above this level of 66,000 in order to confirm this uptrend. I don't want to see us getting rejected at this level because that could then signal a lower low, which would put us back into that same stupid pattern that we've been in for the last 6 months, which has been super frustrating. There is a lot of macro stuff brewing, which we'll chat about in a second, which leads me to believe there is probably a higher chance of upside over the next few months than downside, but still from a technical perspective, it is important to manage risk, and the levels that you need to look out for are 64,500. That is the very crucial mid-range pivot point in the current range that we're in, as well as, of course, 60,000, which is range low, which we have officially reclaimed, but that is the level that you don't want to break down below because we don't want to be making any lower lows on Bitcoin. That wouldn't be good. But so far, so good. We are making a move. Bitcoin's responded very well to what happened last Tuesday with the geopolitical stuff. Obviously, there is still a bit of uncertainty there, so we could potentially see a shakeout or a scare at some point. I'm not ruling that out. So I am still trading cautiously, but Bitcoin looks all right for the time being. Just wanted to give you an update on Bitcoin. Another thing that looks pretty good in regards to Bitcoin are the ETF flows. We've actually seen very strong flows over the last 48 hours with $235.2 million, I believe, not billion dollars. Yeah, $1 million of capital going into Bitcoin via the ETFs, primarily being driven by the IBIT, BlackRock ETF, and the Fidelity FBTC ETF, doing around $100 million of inflows each. That is a very strong sign for Bitcoin, and that's definitely underpinning maybe the resilience over the past few days since we have had this reversal on Bitcoin. Let's talk about alts now, because alts are exhibiting similar price action, albeit actually slightly more bullish price action in many ways versus Bitcoin. If you do want to look at the overall regression channel that we've been in and the fact that we are now starting to create a sub-range within the range that's establishing its own uptrend. So I've marked this out via different colors here. You could see that total 3 was in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows for 6 months from March until September. But now we are starting to see signs of a reversal with higher lows as well as higher highs. On yesterday's show, I did talk about the fact that we really need to breach this level here, the 630 billion level, and that corresponds with the upper band here of this new upwards channel. and this would probably be a bullish scenario, a break of that level for a retest of 800 billion and hopefully beyond. But for now, we keep an eye on that channel. Once again, there is a possibility that this is a mid-range rejection zone. We did see that last time where we rejected and ended up coming back down and testing the lows. There's a chance that happens now, and that would meet at a middle point of 580 billion, but that's not really a huge panic zone, because that would probably just represent decent pullbacks, maybe 10 to 15% across alts, where you can scoop them up on dips. Later in the show, I'll talk about the top alts that I'm looking at scooping up on dips, because I actually recently subscribed to Kaito AI. It's an analytics platform which has a lot of data on mindshare, and there are a couple narratives which I've identified as being really strong mindshare gainers where I'm trying to position more capital in. So if we did get down to the bottom of this zone, that would, in my opinion, be another great opportunity to stack alts on another higher low that have very strong mindshare and relative strength versus the rest of the market. And we did actually do quite well. I will get a new tab up here. Once again, no edits. Usually I'd cut this out, but let's just roll with it. I did a tweet highlighting the latest dip buys that we made. POPCAT plus 61%, WIF plus 36%, Tau plus 33%, Pepe plus 26%, and Phantom plus 12%. After I did that tweet of basically saying, look, during the dip, this was last Tuesday when the market was dropping, when there was all those fears about Iran, etc., you want to be longing the coins that previously led, because these are likely to rebound the strongest. These are the ones I highlighted, and of course, those dip buys that we did make were up substantially. We are seeing a bit of a pullback now. We'll talk about that in a second across some of these alts, but the logic is what I'm trying to highlight here. The fact that typically when we do come out of dips, the coins that respond the best are the ones that do have relative strength in the market. Going on from the total 3 chart that I just showed you, Will Clemente says that total 3 and a few of the alts that he's looking at, he's actually swing long at the moment due to the fact he's identifying a bounce. Pretty clean accumulation / bottoming structures, plus early sign of momentum on a lot of stuff. Memes leading the way again. It's all one big liquidity trade. Now, this is what I want to highlight. This line here about it being one big liquidity trade, because that is essentially what is propelling the markets at the moment. You have, of course, the Chinese government injecting liquidity into their stock market, which has responded in one of the biggest gains I've seen across financial markets in a long time, with their index pumping from 2,700 to 3,500 in just a matter of days. Does this chart look healthy to you? This is the yearly chart. Even on the 5-yearly chart, it's insane. Like, it's absolutely insane what is happening. And this is being triggered by a monumental stimulus injection into the market. Now, we know Bitcoin is very responsive to global liquidity. This isn't always happening, right after a stimulus or monetary policy. Sometimes this can take 6 months. It can lag. But generally speaking, in terms of a macro backdrop or a macro setup for this cycle, this, in my opinion, is a catalyst for Bitcoin, as it does tend to follow equity prices and is responsive to global liquidity. You can see in front of you, Chris Bonisk also says, the bottom is in for global central bank liquidity this cycle. Sit back and watch other central banks join in. We also recently saw the Fed cut rates. This is bullish for Bitcoin and will be rocket fuel for alts. That was a direct quote from Jamie on Real Vision, actually. So you can see here that if this is the bottom for global bank central liquidity, then typically after those periods, we do see rapid expansion in the Bitcoin price, which mirrors the expansion of the central bank balance sheets globally. You can see here Bitcoin responding really well after central bank balance sheets increased significantly in 2015 to 2017. That led to the blow off top in 2017. You can also see last cycle was propelled by this liquidity injection. If we do see something similar, and we're only seeing the very early signs of it right now, then this would be a major catalyst to catalyze the next Bitcoin leg to the upside and the potential break of all-time high. And to be honest, guys, that is when the real party starts. This is all pre-positioning, and this is a really important period because I do believe it's an accumulation phase where you can get great entries on quality alts. If you trade Bitcoin, you can get great entries on Bitcoin, especially on dips, because in the early stage of a run, the market is still slightly fearful and it's very responsive to negative headlines, like we saw last Tuesday. But ultimately, this is early. This is just the beginning of something much, much, much bigger that's brewing, which is great because it means there's potentially the best is yet to come. And that is what we're preparing for right now via maximizing this accumulation phase. I do want to comment briefly on what happened last Tuesday. I don't want to comment on the events, but I want to comment more specifically on how Bitcoin responded, because I do believe this is indicative of the current sentiment in the crypto market right now. Trader Mercury says, successfully holding major support levels in the midst of war FUD is probably indicative of a market that wants to trend higher. Bull markets are notorious for brushing off bearish events so much higher. And let's actually zoom in on the Bitcoin chart to look at this response, because it is quite telling. You can see we did have a sharp sell-off going from 65.9 all the way down to 60, which was a 9% drawdown, but we bounced 7% in just a matter of days and 4% if you do include this most recent dip. Obviously, stocks also responded as well. So that is just something interesting to note, that in a bear market, bad news tends to react really, really badly. And you just see continued bearish momentum, and there's no momentum no buyers stepping back in to actually bid. Now we are seeing a Bitcoin response, which is indicative of the fact that we are in a bull market and people have a bullish predisposition, which maybe it goes without saying if you look at the macro chart, but it is a nice reminder because we have been chopping sideways and we have been in this downtrend for the last 6 months. So that is my general market update. Now let's get into the meme update. These were the very, very strong performers over the last couple of days. Then after the memes, I'm going to get into some other sectors which I am currently closely watching. And of course, the altcoin that I want to speak about that's in the thumbnail of today's video does fall under one of these categories later in the video, where I did make a big portfolio move. And then at the end, I want to talk about some of the institutional data that we are getting that is alluding to potential continued strength on two narratives in particular, which will help frame your accumulation/buy list for the next few months. So plenty of alpha yet to come in today's video. Starting with the meme update, I'm sure this is what a lot of you want to hear about, considering memes were absolutely exploding. Now, we did see a cool down across a lot of the meme coins. You can see POPCAT is down 15% today, but it was one of the biggest gainers. So something to note is that, yes, although memes have dropped harder than any other narrative, they also pumped the most, as you can see on Velo here, from the lows to the local highs. So it's natural that you're going to see the biggest pullback when they've pumped the most, right? That's just one thing to keep in mind. But after what was a pretty aggressive run over the weekend and yesterday, they have had a much needed cool down. Now, I hope a lot of you actually read my thread yesterday, or this long form post that I did, and watched yesterday's video, because in the video, I basically read out this entire, article you could call it, that I wrote, which basically gave you a more measured approach to DCAing into coins. And I said that one thing you want to do is accept that there's always another opportunity in crypto and that there's no need to FOMO. I do hope that that logic set in with you, because it would have saved you from buying literally the pico top on a lot of these memes. Now, I don't think personally it'll be the top for long. I do think memes will eventually go higher, and probably much higher as we look further into Q4 and into Q1. But at least in the shorter term, if you did watch that video and you did look at this post that I did yesterday, you would have been protected from a little bit of downside and maybe have a bit more liquidity now to strike, now that these coins are actually pulling back. Now let's talk about POPCAT, because it did lead the run. So naturally, when we discuss memes, if we can predict or anticipate what's going to happen with POPCAT, a lot of the rest of the meme market will follow, because it is a clear leader alongside SPX and GigaChad. Now I want to bring you all the way back to yesterday at 7:30 a.m., right when POPCAT was making its daily high. I think it even went a little bit higher, but it was around $1.40 to $1.50 when I did this post, where in the meme coin channel I said, I was asked if there was any chance of pullbacks, because everyone was trying to FOMO, right? And that's what prompted me to write this post, because it was scaring me how bullish everyone was in the channel. Was going absolutely crazy. Everyone aping left, right, and center. But I got asked from Ashad, any chance of pullbacks? And I said, look, I'm thinking POPCAT will have a small cooldown now. I'll get another entry. Then it'll run to 2 bill. Then I'm anticipating a deeper pullback to 1.6 to 1.7. That's my POPCAT prediction. What happened? Well, the first of those 3 potential moves happened. So I did the Discord post around here if you want to line up the time, early on Monday. Then the price has now dropped. So I said I'm expecting a pullback or a cool down here where I'll get another entry. That is what we're getting now. We are getting that pullback. Then a run to 2 bill after it pulls back before the deeper pullback to 1.6 to 1.7. So something like this, let's say we pull back and then consolidate and then run to 2 bill and then come back down. That is like kind of my rough thoughts as to what's going to happen with POPCAT. And to be honest, it doesn't take a genius because it was very overhyped, but we did actually call the top on POPCAT yesterday in the Discord. But I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, Mars, you said you're going to get another entry on POPCAT after it dips. Is that now? Because we have seen the dip. Now, this is where it gets tricky. If you do also believe that it's going to go to 2 bill at some point, you can start DCAing in here. Just keep in mind that the actual major support level, Paradise, our head trader that's in the Discord, I actually asked him, do I long POPCAT now? Because I was personally interested. He had this response. He said he's really watching this $1 zone because that is the key level and the key demand zone, as you can see exemplified here on his charts, that also demonstrates confluence with his noodle, which is our momentum indicator on the daily. So he's looking for a pullback into this zone at some point as this begins to converge to the upside. I'm talking about the indicator, because that would be more of a support buy rather than buying in the middle of a range. But he also made the point that we were seeing a strong response on the H4 noodle indicator. This is an indicator that he uses a lot to basically gauge momentum and strength in the shorter term for entries. So I don't know when this video is going to go out. It may be going out a couple hours after it's created. If you are in the Discord, you have access to the indicator, so you would know whether we're still in a buy zone. But if we are responding from that zone and at least showing decent momentum on the lower time frames, maybe you can take an entry and then have invalidation under the noodle. If not, you have a couple of other options. You can wait for us to potentially converge into the demand zone, or you can follow what I talked about in this tweet and maybe get an initial position of, let's say, 30% and then continue to DCA if we go into the demand zone. So your entry won't be $1, but just in case this is the local bottom and we end up going higher, you get an entry here and you continue to average in lower, which makes your average cost basis like $1.10. And if you think we're going to 2 bill, then $1.10 is a decent price to buy in at. I'll be honest, and I said this yesterday, I don't think POPCAT is the greatest risk-reward long in the market right now. I actually think certain meme coins are better, but I understand a lot of you want to FOMO into POPCAT, and I understand that it's been a leader, so you can play it in the short term with invalidation. And that is what I'll be doing, but with invalidation on my trades on both the lower time frame and then obviously on the higher time frame, you have this all-time high level. I don't think it's as good as a buy as maybe these two. I'll go through them quickly. The first one is, where is it? MOG. This one looks really good from a technical perspective. It actually, in my opinion, looks better than POPCAT because you have had the reclaim of the previous range high well, no, it was range high because it made all-time highs on March 6th, then ended up creating range low at this level here, and then flirting multiple times with this level before eventually breaking out above and holding again, which is what we're seeing right now. This, in my opinion, is still probably the better risk reward because, let's just flick through the charts and you'll see what I mean. Like, POPCAT is pretty much the exact same chart, just having occurred a couple weeks earlier. So MOG still hasn't had that breakout level to take it 40% above all-time high, which would push it up to like a 2.5 or 2.2x from where it is now. So I do prefer MOG. That is one I prefer to POPCAT. And I also prefer Pepe. It probably isn't as hot because it's not a Murad coin. And Murad's been like the major proponent of this meme coin super cycle thesis, and it's resulted in a lot of memes pumping. But I do like Pepe fundamentally. And I actually DM'd Murad, and he said that he actually likes Pepe, but he just prefers the mid caps from a risk reward perspective. And then the other one I'm getting asked a lot about is SPX. On the Discord AMA that we do every single week on Sunday, I actually said that I was averaging or taking an initial position into SPX, which I ended up doing at 260 mil. So I'm up almost to 2x on that already. But it's just very hard for me to like give any sort of bearing on this because it's pumped so much. And you guys know what I like to do. My strategy in the market is generally buying coins with relative strength, strong mindshare, and a strong narrative on major dips. This is not a major dip. In fact, it's a runaway coin. And in these scenarios, you have to implement the strategy that I talked about on my Twitter and in yesterday's show of maybe getting an initial entry and then averaging into the rest of your position. I got my initial entry at 270, but I'm not really comfortable averaging into the rest of my position on a major pump. So I'm waiting for a retrace like we're getting on POPCAT, and then maybe I'll consider my second entry. But obviously, well done to everyone that did just YOLO it into SPX. It's not how I like to manage risk, but obviously you've done really well with that. Just a couple of updates as well. My Memecoin watch list for all Mars High Club members that are in the Discord is available in my alpha channel. If you do end up signing up to the Discord, you get access instantly, and you'll instantly be able to access the indicator that I discussed today that Paradise uses, which is the H4 noodle, which is an amazing strength indicator for indicating when to buy and when to de-risk. And you'll also obviously get instant access to this watch list, as well as daily show summaries and a lot more alpha in the group. I've had a few coins recently, which I pointed out in that channel. I'm kind of leaking some of the alpha now, but anyway, I'm giving you a bit of a taster. Near Protocol is one that I'm looking at, but I'm going to click off before I spoil anything else, because we gotta keep some of the source for the Mars High Club members. Using the link in the description, you can sign up and join if you want to be a part of that community. It's been a crazy last week in the community just because the amount of trading and talking regarding meme coins that's been going on in the group. If you've been in the meme talk channel, you'll know it's been probably the busiest and the craziest channel. The trading talk channel is also super active. Obviously, we're helping a lot of people with their entries on POPCAT and a bunch of other meme coins, Paradise being our head trader that helps with a lot of these entries and exits. So if you want a bit more hand-holding, Mars High Club is the place to be, and there's a link in the description below to that. Velo performance is an interesting thing that I'm currently looking at, with the meme coin sell-off obviously being a lot stronger than the other narratives like AI and L1s, which have also been leading. But as I mentioned before, the reason why they're leading is because, or the reason, memes are lagging and the other ones are leading over the past day after we've seen this sell-off is just because memes run up so much harder. Like if you look at L1s, they didn't dip as much, but they didn't pump as much. So they maintained relative strength over like a 1 week period. If you zoom out to the 2 week period, you can start to see it even more clearly. Memes went on a massive run, then had a massive dip, then went on a massive run. So what's the lesson here? The lesson is memes pump the hardest when the market is strong, and they pull back the hardest when the market is down. So the playbook for memes is actually really simple. You can buy into the good memes, the strong memes, when they sell off the hardest and use invalidation. So you don't need to, necessarily rely on picking the bottom or DCA. And then those positions will probably end up outperforming and be some of the strongest gainers when the market resumes to the upside. I do think memes will continue relative strength for a couple of reasons, but one of them is, as you can see in front of you, Murad's mindshare on Kaito has been absolutely exploding. He now absorbs a 0.55% of the total mindshare in terms of crypto creators. This is very cool data, by the way, that you can access on Kaito. I mean, it's like $10,000 a year, but I have access now, so I can show you some of the top data on the shows and in the Mars High Club and in my tweets. But this is very crazy, like the fact that Murad is gaining so much traction, and what he's really building is a cult. And it is showing that right now there is a lot of demand for memes in the market because people want to cut the crap. They just want to go straight to the end goal, which in crypto is being part of a community, making money, and having fun. And memes are offering this, and people are seeing a lot of people making a bunch of money on memes. So it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy of when retail comes in, they see everyone's making money on memes, so they get into memes, and it's like this, positive flywheel, which pretty much underpins his entire thesis. There are counter arguments to that, which maybe I'll get into in a future video, but all you need to know is this tweet right here. On memes, fundamentals in the current trading environment. 1, the market will tell you what it likes. All you have to do is listen. 2, approach the market for what it is, not what you think it ought to be. And this is really, if you want to break down the crux of these shows, what I preach on the channel. I talk a lot about identifying relative strength for a reason. We aren't necessarily trying to forecast or predict some crazy narrative that's going to come from outer space and land on our laps. We're simply interpreting data and positioning ourselves accordingly. And the people that can do that the most effectively, and that's an example of something I would edit out, but now I'm just rolling with it, are the people that are going to make the most money this cycle. So this is a very good line right there. Approach the market for what it is, not what you think it ought to be. So there might be narratives that are lagging, that aren't performing well, but you're not really trading right now, like gaming. And that doesn't mean it's a bad narrative. And at some point, it very well may come back, but it's not what the data is showing us is performing right now. And I want to have the majority of my positions, and maybe I make a couple bets on sectors that aren't hot just based on personal conviction and beliefs. That's totally fine. But I want to have the majority of my wealth concentrated, the wealth that I accumulate from these dips, into coins that are performing well and exhibiting relative strength. I was going to do a little bit more rambling about meme coins, but I'll probably save that for a future video. All you basically need to know is that Murad is leading the charge with memes. They are the strongest performers in the market. One interesting observation I will make before we move on to the sector a lot of you will be waiting for of this video, which is the coin that I recently took a big position in, is I'm noticing a big disconnect between YouTube, where you're watching this video, and crypto Twitter, or X right now. Like yesterday, I did a meme coin video. Now, this is very interesting, maybe hearing my perspective as a creator, right? I put up the video thinking it was going to get 30, 40, 50,000 views and be a super, super viral video, and one of the best on my channel for the last couple of weeks because memes were exploding on Twitter. It was a full meme coin guide. It was talking about all the memes that had all the keywords and the search volume. The video flopped from a creator perspective in terms of views. It still got 20,000 views, but it didn't meet my expectations. It was 8 out of 10. So on YouTube rankings, after 24 hours, you can see where it ranks versus other recently uploaded videos, and it was 8 out of 10, which was a massive underperformer for me. But I was thinking, why is this the case? And what I realized is Twitter and YouTube are so disconnected as social media platforms. Crypto Twitter are like the degens and the more experienced players typically, and YouTube is more of a retail platform. It's interesting though, because on YouTube, which is more of a retail platform, there seems to be more of a bias towards older altcoins, more of a bias towards things people are familiar with and tech, versus pure speculative gambling stuff, which is the narrative and the trend on crypto Twitter. I've also noticed that when there's a big market move and crypto Twitter's panicking or, getting really excited, that sentiment takes maybe a week or at least a few days to transfer over to YouTube. So YouTube's actually operating on more of a lag and is in a bit more of a vacuum to crypto Twitter. Why does this matter though? Well, it indicates a few things. One, we may still be very early to meme coins, because if YouTube truly is more of a retail platform and people aren't as excited about memes on YouTube, maybe that indicates that we're a bit earlier to the meme narrative than we really think. The other thing we can conclude is that retail potentially is a bit apathetic towards altcoins and maybe is still a little bit standoffish after the last 6 months of price action. So although Twitter's really excited about a potential reversal here and alts picking up, YouTube doesn't really want to hear about it. They're still apathetic. Search volume's still down. Interest is still down, which ultimately is a bullish thing, right? Because when interest comes back, and that will happen as a reflection of prices pumping, then the YouTube audience is going to come back really quickly. So YouTube is like very reflexive to prices, and price will move, and then YouTube views and sentiment and hype will come back. So the fact that it hasn't yet, if you want to take the reverse psychology of it, you can kind of say, well, maybe we are a bit earlier than we thought. But there are some other conclusions that you can pause the video and look at here, because it is an interesting thought experiment. Like, why is YouTube and Twitter for crypto so disconnected? All right, enough about memes, enough about Twitter. Let's now talk about some of the other sectors that I am focusing on based on the data. I read this tweet from Ansem, which got me thinking, where he says he disagrees, and this was a tweet saying alts, like basically vaporware is the TLDR, and that, no one believes in alts. Ansem said he disagrees. He said he actually believes that this cycle will have more real altcoins with real products than other cycles. On the flip side, meme coins have garnered a lot of attention, but I think the reasoning is wrong. And I would actually agree with Ansem. A lot of us are maybe a bit dismissive of tech stuff because there's this whole gambling rhetoric and thesis perpetuating right now. And although I agree with that thesis, and I think gambling is a use case, and a lot of retail wants to gamble on memes, etc., I wouldn't fade what has been built over the last few years. Because in 2021, projects got a lot of funding. They didn't really have real products. A lot of them built for 3 years to get to the point now where they're finally launching like really solid products, which are ripe to attract a lot of users. But at the time that these products are finally ready, people are now pivoting and saying, everything's vaporware. So I actually think there will be a utility comeback at some point, And this is simply driven by tech development and nothing else. So I asked myself, like, where do I think the convergence is the strongest between what's being built and speculation and hype? Because I still don't think, any tech that's good just catches a bid just because it's tech. Like, at the end of the day, speculation and hype are driving the market. This is like the meme coin argument as well. So what coins and what narratives converge the two the best? And there were two that came to mind. The first one is RWA. Because RWA, in my opinion, is a narrative which has a lot of memementals, so it has a lot of hype behind it with BlackRock and with the whole Larry Fink trend of tokenizing assets, and a lot of other wealth managers are going into asset tokenization, so it has that, but it also, in my opinion, has a genuine use case. I mean, how cool is it to be able to invest in bonds, property, stocks, yield-bearing assets from the real world on the blockchain, getting the benefits of the permissionlessness of the blockchain, the speed of the blockchain, the fact that the blockchain's open 24/7, the fractionalization of the blockchain, the convenience of the blockchain, whilst getting exposure to real assets. I think this is a huge use case. So I think there's enough of a fundamental driver and enough of a tech use case to see RWA continue to be a top narrative this cycle. But there's a problem, and it's not a huge problem from a narrative point of view, but it's a problem if you're holding these bags. The two RWA proxies right now, Ondo and Mantra, although I think they could potentially go higher, they have run up a lot. Let's just be honest with each other. Ondo is up, like a 35x from the seed round, and even up a 4x liquid at the current price since I first mentioned it in Q4 last year in a video that I did, I think last November. So it's up a lot. Obviously, it's also had periods where it was like $1.20, up even more. So there is, a bit of a buffer zone there, but it's up a lot, and it has unlocks coming in January. And then you have Mantra, which is also a protocol I hold, and I'm also bullish on it, but it also is up a lot. It's up a 22x year to date. And I think a lot of people are now looking for the next rotation. So I did spend a lot of time looking at the RWA sector, trying to decide, well, where is the next rotation going to be? PENDLE, I think, is a great asset to still hold. So I'm still holding PENDLE, but I don't think it's pure RWA. It doesn't quite fit this institutional narrative that maybe propelled Ondo. Mantra, I still think it performed well, by the way. It's run up a lot, right? And I think people are going to be looking for the next rotator. So I did some digging, and I looked at GOLDFINCH, I looked at Centrifuge, I looked at Maple, I looked at a lot of these protocols, but I did land on one that, in my opinion, is going to potentially make a push, or at least is a strong candidate to push up into this top echelon of RWA protocols, and that is ClearPool. So ClearPool is doing some really good stuff. Fundamentally, you can kind of see my thesis outlined here. I posted this in the Discord a few days ago. Discord members obviously get the early access. But ClearPool's a protocol who are launching a new blockchain for RWA yield, which is supported by Optimism, called Ocean. This basically means that it's not necessarily Ondo, because it's not just a market, and it's not necessarily Mantra, it's not just tech. It offers both credit and tech. So the way I'm thinking about it is it's like Ondo and Mantra combined. They've been around for a while. So when I did a lot of my DD, I looked at, okay, what's just vaporware and what's actually been around for a while. ClearPool's been around for 3 years. A lot of the supply has been diluted into the market already, which is great, unlike some of these other ones that have a lot of unlocks to come. And they've already done $620 million worth of loans originating from the platform since inception. They've got the backers like Sequoia, Hashkey, Arrington. They've got the exchange listings like Bybit and Kraken in the US. Kraken is very hard to crack. That is like a major plus because US users are finding it really hard to buy crypto right now. And I think a lot of the coins that perform the best are actually going to be the ones listed on US exchanges because of how tight the regulation has become potentially at the end of Q4, Q1, and just broadly next year. So it kind of hits multiple verticals. It hits the RWA vertical, which is really strong, and I think is going to be one of the top performing narratives. It's at a time when two of the strongest performers have already run up a lot, so there's room for a rotator. It has the US listings, so retail can actually buy in. It's got the big backers, which obviously helps with exchange listings and just helps with credibility. Doc's team, good product, and they're launching infrastructure via Ocean. And infra is, like it or not, what actually catches the biggest bids in the market. People love L1s, L2s, blockchains. They absolutely love it. They lap it up. So from a narrative perspective, I think it's quite strong. Now, from a TA perspective, because I'm sure a lot of you will be wondering about that. it is in an uptrend. You can see very nicely it's abiding by this orange line. What did happen overnight is it pumped to 16 and then got rejected off this level. You guys know how supports and resistances typically work. The more time something tests a level, like we saw earlier in the year, you can see multiple retests, the higher the likelihood of a breakout, which actually took ClearPool up to 40 cents. Currently, it's at 14 cents, so still 160% away from the yearly highs. But what it really needs to do is break this level. So I think if you didn't get an entry when I posted it in the Discord on the 5th of October when it was 12 cents, if you're still waiting for an entry, what you can do is you can wait for a confirmed break above 16, and this would be a really solid indicator that there's enough headroom ahead for it to potentially run up to 30, 40 cents. And look, this is contingent on a few things. It's contingent on Bitcoin continuing to hold up and perform well. If Bitcoin does badly, no altcoin's going to perform well, right? It's contingent on RWA seeing a run again, which I think we have. And it's contingent on the big whales that made a lot of money on Mantra and Ondo rotating some of their position into ClearPool. And that's what I've basically done. I mean, I've taken profits over a long period of time across Ondo and Mantra because it's pumped significantly, and you've been idiot not to take profits if something's pumped massively, right? I've rotated some of that capital into ClearPool as potentially the next RWA runner. So yeah, that is pretty much my thesis there. Discord guys are already happy because they're already up like I think 20% already. I gave the early alpha there, but you're still getting it pretty early because it hasn't even broken out yet if you're watching this YouTube show. So basically, at the start of the video in my intro, I said, on this channel, I give you the early alpha. That's true. In the Mars High Club, I give you the earliest alpha. So the YouTube's still very early. The Mars High Club is the earliest, and then the other channels are later. Not all channels. Some channels do a good job, but a lot of the channels that I watch, and this is where I think I've got like a unique advantage over other channels. They're just really late to trends. They don't really have their finger on the pulse. They don't really have a feel for the market. I feel like, I guess maybe just due to my age, my propensity to learn just how much time I'm spending in the market, the people in my network, I feel like I've just got a really good feel for the market and a good read on the market. And I think that shows in my calls and the content that I've created. But I'm pretty good at spotting narratives, in my opinion, if I do say so myself. And that's something that I want to focus on this channel. I'm not doing pure TA videos, and I'm not doing, crazy research breakdowns right now or deep dives. I'm mostly focusing on the stuff that matters: narrative identification and positioning. And at the end of the day, I think that is the highest alpha per minute that I can give you on the channel. I'll end with this. It's not just RWA or memes or any other narrative, that I'm piecing together randomly for that matter. The number one thing I always talk about is identifying strength. So I think you definitely have to be paying attention to what narratives are commanding the most mindshare. Memes are one of them. AI is actually the top leader at the moment. So I want to touch on AI very, very quickly because it's a vertical that is exploding. There's one protocol in the AI realm that's launching this week that I want you to pay attention to. All you need to do is follow them on Twitter just to stay up to date. They're going to be launching in 2 days. This is Carve. They're building the largest modular data layer for gaming and AI. Like Prime, it has that powerful intersection of gaming, which is a retail narrative, which at some point might come back into the market, but also AI, which is really strong right now. So the AI gives it that short-term catalyst, and the gaming component gives it that longer-term catalyst. And they've got tons of partnerships with other projects in AI and gaming where they can really build out the ecosystem. But they've got huge backers, they've got big listings. So this is one that I personally invested in, and I'm really excited about what they can do. So obviously, I can't talk about price right now. They haven't launched, but I'm just keeping my eye on Friday. Whether I buy in or not with additional spot exposure will totally depend on the price when it launches, and that's something I'll update you on, on Thursday, but I'll do the video on Friday, which will be afterwards. Another token that I'm looking at in the AI category, it's technically DePin, but AI and DePin are lumped together, is World Mobile Token. I expanded on my thesis here yesterday, but I do believe that fundamentally speaking, in terms of genuine network effect, real users, and ability to earn yield, WMT, for me, from a fundamental perspective, stands out versus pretty much all of these other like vaporous DePin projects. Not all of them are vaporous, like a lot of them are legit, but I meet a lot of projects, right? I talk to a lot of founders. When I talk to the founder of WMT, I get a really cool sense for the vision. And that's basically connecting the unconnected to the internet, especially in third world countries where a lot of people, in some cases 90+% of people, don't have access to internet. This is like a fundamental human right, and WMT is solving it via the blockchain. They also have a bunch of stuff rolling out on their network, which I don't know if I can speak about it all right now, but there's a lot of upcoming catalysts. What you need to know right now, though, is the fact that they migrated from Cardano, where they were the top traded token for a long period of time, to Base. So now they're in EVM. So you can buy them on Uniswap now, which means there's a whole lot of liquidity which just couldn't invest in WMT, which they're now opened up to. The other thing is, because they're launching on Base, which is obviously Coinbase's chain, there is some speculation about a Coinbase listing. This would usually be rubbished by myself if I didn't think it had legs. But the difference is here, the CMO has publicly tweeted and acknowledged World Mobile Token. So is Brian Armstrong. I showed those tweets on yesterday's video. So it seems like they're connected a little bit more than the typical project which just launches on Base. Base also announced the migration. So if they could get a Coinbase listing, that would be absolutely amazing. And it's something that I'm watching. Something else to note is that you'll see on the market section of CoinGecko, they're only listed on a lot of these like DEXs now. That's because they're remigrating to the WMTX token, which is going to obviously be on EVM. The migration's happened, but the exchanges are now over the next week going to start relisting the token. So you're going to see a lot of listings. A lot of you probably have struggled or are struggling right now to buy in. I think that's actually going to create a pump because a lot of people are going to be in the same boat whereby they want to buy WMT, not just my audience, by the way, I'm talking about in general, right? They want to buy it, but they find it difficult now because not everyone likes using DEXs. Centralized exchanges are much easier. So they're simply going to wait for the exchange listings and then buy in. So I think we could see a bit of momentum around that over the coming weeks and months. And that's another reason why I expanded my WMT position. Going on from AI, one more token I want to talk about, which I flashed earlier, is Near Protocol. Just want you to note that it's now breaking out of this downtrend orange diagonal. If you want to draw in the uptrend that it's now starting to form, you do have a nice like bullish flag starting to form. It also pivoted nicely off range low at 460. Range high is 590. So even if you took a trade here, for example, you could potentially walk away with 20% profits on spot. Even if you wanted to sell there, you could re-enter on a flip if you're playing the technicals and target that $8 region. So Near Protocol is one that I'm watching because, like the RWA narrative, Tau has been the clear leader, just like Ondo and Mantras have been the clear leader of RWA. And I do think there's appetite to rotate, considering AI is the top narrative in crypto by mindshare. So AI, RWA, and memes. That is the focus. If you want to join the Mars High Club, there's a link in the description below. I'm going to see you over there after this video because I'm going to be answering a bunch of questions. And if not, I'm going to see you either tomorrow or the day after here on the YouTube channel. Have a lovely rest of your day. And wow, I made it through the whole video I made mistakes, don't get me wrong. But I didn't make any mistakes that required editing. And that is an achievement. I haven't done that in a few months. By the way, I don't know if you guys know, I used to live stream on Crypto Banter. I know a lot of you know that, but maybe for the new viewers, you don't know. So I did live every day. So I'm used to live. But when I went over to my own channel, since I had the luxury of editing, I started like editing them a bit more and cutting out mistakes just because I could afford to be more picky, right? Because it wasn't on air. But today I just decided, look, I waste so much time editing and exporting. And if I just made no mistakes, imagine how much quicker it would be. And I did it. So big ups to me. I'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely rest of your day. Peace.